Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Hey, today I wanted to talk to you about that denied claim. It could be a past claim, current claim, future claim, right? You want to make sure that you don't get that denied. And I'll tell you that when we file claims with the VA, we often go, man, I hope this gets approved. Or, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there and seeing what happens. So, look, the moral of this story is learn from other people's mistakes so you don't need to make them yourself. So I'm going to share the top 2 reasons, at least my version anyway, of the top 2 reasons that claims get denied by the VA. And I'm going to talk kind of through what a successful claim looks like, kind of the basic process, quick overview, and those 2 reasons and how to rectify that up front so you don't have to get denied and then go through that process. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. It truly does help everyone. Every thumbs up helps to push this information further out and get into the hands of those that need it. If you're not a member, consider joining. It does help the channel immensely. Thank you to all you members, and it helps me to find you in the comments. So let's jump into it. First, we must understand that the VA process, the claims process for disability compensation, is in fact a legal process. We often forget that it's a legal process. It's important to understand this because then we can see that we must make sure that we dot our I's and we cross our T's because it's a legal process. Now, it's so much so a legal process that when your claim is completed, they call it fully adjudicated. And if you disagree with the VA's decision, you could push it to the Board of Veterans Appeals and have it overseen or looked over by a Veterans Law judge who could then rule and overturn the VA's decision for you. So it is a legal process, so we need to treat it as such. Everything that you give the VA from this point forward, if you haven't thought of it this way before, everything you give the VA is considered evidence. It's going to be evidence either for your claim or against your claim. And I will tell you, right now, a little nugget, side note, that's why I am a fan of controlling the information that I give the VA. In other words, no VA, I'm not going to give you authorization to talk to my doctor and get everything from my doctor. I will give you the things that are pertinent to my claim, and then you can work with that. So I control the information, the evidence that the VA has. That puts the ball in my court, and they're playing by my rules essentially because I'm supplying them with the evidence. So that's just a little side note. So as we think about this process with the filing of your claim, another piece that gets in the way is ourselves. We get excited and we want to get that claim filed as fast as possible, and we want to see what kind of a decision that we can get as quickly as possible and hopefully get that increase in our disability payments, which is great. And I get it. We're all like that. We're human, right? You decide to buy a new car finally and you pick down in your mind which one you want. Now you see them everywhere and you can't wait to pull the trigger. I get it. Take the pressure off and file an intent to file so that way you don't jump the gun. So that way you can make sure that you absolutely document everything you need and develop your claim with the proper evidence. Okay, having that correct claim submitted is important to not getting it denied. And again, don't worry, I'm going to get to the 2 top reasons. I just have to paint the picture of what it really looks like to file a claim. So you, when you're filing a claim, need to have 3 things. And for those that have watched a lot of my videos, you've heard me say it before. The 3 things for a successful claim are 1, time and service. You have to have a block of time and service in order to file for VA disability compensation. No brainer, right? But it's a legal process. So what do they need? They need evidence of your time and service. That's a DD-214. So you supply that. Great. That gives you your window of opportunity, entry and exit dates. Now, for those that know, there's obviously more than that. I'm just going to focus on this because this is kind of the primary and this is where most people have the issues. There are, for example, other nuggets here where you can have claims outside of your window of opportunity through presumptive conditions, right? So, but other than presumptive conditions, you basically have to come back to your time and service. So, number 1, time and service gives you that block of time and service. gives you your window of opportunity. Number 2 is a diagnosed condition. That diagnosed condition must be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects. It has to be ongoing, right? You have to have a problem that's still there, persisting, right? Number 3 is a nexus, a link between that diagnosed chronic condition, right, and your time in service. Now the link, this is where people get screwed up, and they end up not filing claims because they screw this up. The link between your condition and your time in service is not the military caused X. Now that's included in it, of course, right? If the military caused something, right? Whatever, a Humvee rolled over, landed on your foot, you broke your foot, now you can't walk, right? Of course, right? But what the VA is looking for is show me that your condition first started or began during your time in service, right? Show me that it manifested during your time in service. So that's kind of the components of a successful claim. But what happens is we, as veterans, thinking that, the DOD and the VA are two federal government entities, and they should talk to each other, and I should just be able to, look, I was with the military for X number of years. I should just be able to walk across the street to the VA and knock on the door and say, hey, I just got out. And they should, this isn't how it works, but we think in a way that maybe I'll walk through the door and they're going to go, hey, y'all, you just got out? Have a seat. Or you got out 20 years ago? Have a seat. We're going to do a full exam and we're going to find out everything that's wrong with you and trace it back to your time in service and get you service connected. Doesn't work like that. And sadly, and I'm blowing that up a little bit, but here's a real life example. Here's my first example of why claims get denied. Number 1 is service connection. Okay, that proved to me that it started during your time in service. That means provide evidence that it started during your time in service. So you might have a condition, great. So you file your condition, you give them your DD-214, you give them your diagnosis and your doctor's paperwork and all that stuff, and you send it in. Meanwhile, you've been out for 20 years, you have no evidence that shows that it started during your time in service, or at least you didn't provide any of it, and now here you are. And you're going through the process and your fingers are crossed, and then they come back and they go not service connected because you did not provide a single lick of evidence, and not a single lick of evidence was able to be found through the duty to assist and blah, 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 whatever. So there's nothing, right? Rely on yourself. Forget about the duty to assist. I mean, it's like a last resort. You should go try to track down whatever you can. But in this example, you did not provide evidence that your condition manifested during the time of service. Now, look, not everybody went and got diagnosed for your condition while you were right? Sometimes you waited many years and you self-medicated just ibuprofen and aspirin or Rolaids or Tums and Mylanta, right? Whatever it is. But you've had it ever since you were in. But you still need to prove that somehow. You need to provide evidence. That's where you're going to hear people talking about buddy statements, having people that knew you then write letters attesting to the fact that they know that you had migraines or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, bad heartburn, right? So people that are writing these letters attesting to their knowledge of you during your window of opportunity having those conditions, that is providing evidence of that nexus. Having your doctor write that nexus letter, that is helping to prove that nexus. You might just maybe, in your exit physical health assessment, maybe you checked a box that said frequent heartburn, or maybe you checked a box that said migraine headaches. If you did, great. That's evidence for your nexus. But if you don't submit it, it's not there. And if the VA doesn't find it, it's not there. So they're not going to give you service connection for that condition. That's the number 1. Number 2 reason why veterans' claims get denied is they don't provide a diagnosis. They don't provide the diagnosis, right? You just go, I know I have heartburn, gastroesophageal reflux disease. I guarantee it. I know I have plantar fasciitis. I know I do. I know I have migraine headaches. I know I have a lumbar strain. I know I have back issues, right? So the list goes on. I know I have tinnitus. Well, great that you know, but you're not, unless you are, a medical provider. You must provide evidence of your condition, and you just saying it does not count. You must provide evidence. We sometimes think that the VA, because they have a bunch of doctors and hospitals, that they would go, hey, let's go ahead and check you out for that. But oftentimes they don't. So, I mean, there are cases where they do, but most often they do not do you any favors. If you submit a claim to the Veterans Benefits Administration, they are not likely to move forward with your claim for service connection if you're not providing them proof that you have that condition. They'll just view it as you're just throwing it against the wall. Provide evidence of your condition. That's the diagnosis, doctor's notes, whatever, a prescription. If they want to prescribe you something, take a copy of that prescription, right? No doctor's going to prescribe you something to take care of something if you don't have that condition, right? So, for example, you got gastroesophageal reflux disease and you get a prescription for Prilosec, right? Keep that prescription, got your name on it, got the prescription. What's that prescription for? It's for bad heartburn and acid and GERD. So go ahead and submit that. It's evidence. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude it there. Those are my top two reasons: not providing a diagnosis and not providing evidence for the nexus. Have a great one. Remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.